All right, Jeremy here, Jeeps Unlimited, 303-666-9020, partsbreakers.com. I am going to do a quick video on what we call measuring what you need for a drive shaft. So this is not a good Jeep to do it on. I'll show you very briefly why. One, I don't have the axle sitting in it. That's a major issue to do what I'm trying to do. And two, this is a slip yoke. So meaning that this has got splines here. Now, oftentimes you'll hear, Richard, ignore this part because it has nothing to do with your Jeep. But oftentimes you'll hear referred to a slip yoke eliminator or an SYE kit. Okay, that's eliminating the slip portion of this, which is literally spline shaft that comes out of this, a male end out of the T-case and a female side on the drive shaft. Okay, I'm not going to get too much into that, but essentially it's eliminating that and it's creating a joint, which is like you see here, and it's creating it up here. Oftentimes you'll see them with an H yoke, which is a double cardan U-joint style, right? And it allows, when you're lifted, it allows it to have a better spacing down, so this angle isn't so harsh, okay? This is important on 2.5 inches or bigger, or if you're feeling vibrations, yada, yada, yada. So, okay, I'm not gonna get too much in that because this is not the point of this video. This video is for a customer. And I'm trying to think what I have sitting out here that this will be the easiest to show on. Give me just a second here. I think everything is kind of torn down right now, but I say that and then I'll take a quick peek. So if you guys don't know who we are, we're a parts yard. We have 7 acres, pride ourselves in rust-free Jeep parts. This is a lot of blah, blah, blah for good old customer California, Richard. So please just humor me for a moment. I'm trying to help you out, and you know, might as well help some others out while we do this. So what I need right now is a chassis that doesn't have anything else on it, and I think we've stripped everything down, maybe. Well, I know I have one up front, but oh, you know what? Okay, we'll use a combination of 1 and 1. I did have one we could use, but we just pulled a tranny transfer case on, but there's one sitting next to it, and we can kind of makeshift do that. So you're gonna hear me often tell you guys when you're doing conversions, especially 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, or transmission conversions, T18s, T176s, T5s, and people will ask, do you need to change drive shafts? That kind of depends on a few factors, but typically yes. Typically when you lengthen or shorten the transmission, or some cases the engine, move the engine, put a lift kit on a Jeep, you're gonna get that. So for right now, and this is kind of, the customer was giving me a measurement of a drive shaft. Let me briefly just say why this is hard to use when you're telling me +3 inches on a drive shaft, which is possible. We can do it that way, but it isn't the correct way to do it. If you say it's +3 inches here, okay, so we're gonna take a center the U-joint, and this one's centered up here. Okay, so you're telling me that it's 23-ish, maybe this one's 22 3/4, right? Somewhere in there. And then you say +3 inches. Well, first off, there's a collapsible part. So this is collapsed and this is expanded. All right, so are you giving me a measurement of it collapsed, or are you giving me it expanded? And seriously, that's irrelevant anyway, because you tell me 3 inches, we still don't know. It should be a little bit plus and a little bit minus. You should have a little room both directions. You want plenty of splines when it's driving, but you also want enough that it can pull out when you're wheeling and articulating. You also want enough that it can get shoved back in there and not put a hole through your T-case. So I really don't like to do measurements +3 inches or +5 inches. It's 5 inches longer than I need. Your beginning drive shaft may not have been correct. Somebody might have put it in from something else. We just don't know. So to get an accurate measurement, what I always tell people is we need weight down on the vehicle. Okay, so like this example, this is weight bearing. And then what we're gonna do, and again, this one's, I just pulled the T-case and transmission out, so it's a little hard. But what I want you to do, and you'll get the idea of it here in a second, is I want you to eyeball where that U-joint would fit in here, okay? If you can't hold it still, don't have a second set of hands, just put it up against it and you can take off, I don't know, ½ inch or an inch, whatever that should be. So, but I always like to just do right there, okay? And again, this is just figment of our imagination because I don't even have the other side fixed here. There's nothing in it, but we're wanting you to measure. I can stop shaking. That area right there, okay? And we want you to imagine there's a transfer case sitting in here. So you got transmission and transfer case, and you're gonna give me the center here to the center of the yoke over on this side, right? Now I don't have that here, so I hate doing videos and incomplete, but we'll just walk over to a loose one that I know we have over here. This one's got a blown up T case. I can't even use that one, for example. But I'll show you on the T case. Same thing. It's just the yoke we're looking at. So the rear diff yoke, that's what I just showed you. And then let's just hypothetically say this was your transmission transfer case sitting in there, and you're going to do the same thing here. We're going to go center to center. Okay, so that's your center measurement on that guy, and that length is the length we need. Now the other thing we need, and this is what you can use your drive shaft for, but do make sure that the caps, your end caps of that U-joint are the correct ones for the transmission transfer case. So obviously it's on the transfer case that you're installing. Make sure they're the same size as your old ones, because sometimes, like on this guy, this is an older style U-joint. This might have a bigger U-joint than, let's say, that one's probably the same. Like look at that guy there. So see how much more smaller it is from here to here. So that's an important thing too. Now that we can get around. You can get a bastard U-joint that's off-sided. One side is bigger than the other, vice versa. So that's not as important, but I would like to tell you, so do give me a cap to cap measurement, okay? And we'll, if I have a drive shaft sitting over here, give you but I have one in the back over there. So, all right, so center of your U-joint on your yoke, center of your U-joint on your transfer case. It's like a tongue twister. And that with the weight bearing. Don't measure this with you being on a lift or some jack stands, because that's going to be inaccurate. All right, and then the last thing, so I need the length of the overall drive shaft, and then I need the length of your U-joints, okay? And that will tell me what U-joint sits in there. Now, if you notice you're measuring this and you notice that this length is definitely bigger or longer or shorter than this one here, that is the case that where you have what they call those bastard U-joints. It's basically just a mismatched, and that they make them that way for a reason. We've had to use them, especially on custom applications before. So if you see that, don't be alarmed, that's common. They're hard to find because you usually have to get an old timer behind a counter that'll pick up a catalog and won't just look at the computer, because computers aren't going to tell them, especially at the local auto parts store. Okay, so our end goal, Richard, and anybody else, when you're calling about a drive shaft, is we want to go out to our yard, okay? We're going to take the length, center of the U-joint, or the yoke, to the center of the yoke on your transfer case, that length, and we're going to look for a drive shaft that's going to give us about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. I like 2, but sometimes we don't get to be too choosy. Where it has inward collapsibility, that's even a word, and outward expandability, and I think that is a word. So we want to be able to make sure that'll move, in and out without punching a hole, by basically hitting to where it doesn't have anything left to squish in. And what is it going to do? It's going to push it out, and it's going to push it out probably through through your transfer case, unless you happen to have an old cast iron. But something's going to give, and if it doesn't give there, it will give over here. So you'll ruin a pinion bearing, or something else will happen. So we don't want that. And then the other way we don't want it is we don't want it too short. And trust me, I've seen this many, many times. Too short happens more often than not, especially on ones that get custom made, because those guys, they're putting axles in it. For example, 44s, they have a longer snout on them. So that drive shaft changes, it gets shorter. And they'll say, I want to have everything sitting here. Well, I know in a perfect world, it'd be nice to have everything sitting here, but you really, really need to wait on ordering your drive shafts until you have your axle swap or your whatever you're doing, swap done, weight down on it, and then do your measurement. And more times than not, I'll just finish with this, I see them too short and you're rolling down the highway going 80 and you hit something and it pulls that axle back, especially on coil springs. These are leaf, so they don't have as much backward forward movement, but on a coil spring setup, they absolutely do. And all of a sudden, you hear bang, 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 because what's going to happen? The drive power of the small, usually this guy, okay, either side, even though they're not supposed to, they will. They'll pull themselves out. And you're gunning it. This guy is on a U-joint. It becomes a whip. And it will beat the living crap out of the bottom of your Jeep. I've seen them puncture holes through things. They'll wrap harnesses up in them. So, and the same thing happens when you break a U-joint. Or a T-case snaps in half. So anyway, that's the reason I wanted to put you on a quick hold, Richard. This will take a few minutes to upload, and I just don't want to be inaccurate, especially on your build. I know the way you build stuff's like I build stuff, and I want to have the right stuff going back in it. And if I don't have one and we have to order one, or you have to order one, at least you have that done, because they're going to want exactly the same thing. Trust me, drive shaft companies prefer it, but the online ones especially, they'll do without it. They'll guesstimate, and often, too often than not, they guesstimate wrong, whether either direction. And even if you don't get, maybe they don't pull out or collapse in, problems there, you'll get weird vibration issues, stuff like that. So you definitely want to have it set up properly. And this is a part that at the end of the day, you don't want it wearing something else out, especially after you put all your hard work into it. So, hey, it's Thursday. Jeremy here, Jeeps Unlimited, partsbreakers.com. We're going to be heading out west into October. Okay, that's going to be St. George. We have that on our route for drops. Las Vegas, possibly San Diego, of course, LA area. And yes, Richard will be swinging by, hopefully seeing you guys if timing permits for both of us. Taking the kiddos out begrudgingly to Disneyland, which is not something I do very often. But my nephew stayed with us over the summer and worked his tail end off, helping us watch the kiddos. And that's something we're actually going to take him out and do as long as he can go, and surprise him. He doesn't even know about it yet. So anyway, that just point is that, you know, we'll be picking up parts, but we'll likely be delivering a lot. I don't know if I'll be bringing the big trailer with me or not. I just got back from the East Coast, and unfortunately, I think I smoked my automatic transmission, which is a big old Allison, but I don't even know how. But God's grace got me here to the yard. That's awesome, because I already had one issue in New Jersey, and that was not fun at all. So, having said that, more than likely, we're just going to have our little RV camper, and I'll be pulling behind either a rental U-Haul that I can just dump off and not have to tow it around, or if we have enough stuff coming out, we'll bring out our car trailer, and I'll probably dump it off at a buddy's out there, maybe even your house, Richard. No, I'm just teasing. Anyway, you guys call me as soon as you get this and let me know, or shoot me a text. Give me that measurement. That's probably the best thing right now, and then just give me a little while. You know what? I'm going to waste a little bit more time with everybody's, but I'll do it on this nice little fun scooter I got, and hopefully not break my neck. I want to show you something. People always call and ask. I want you to see what I'm doing. And I'm hoping on this trip, which actually will determine what trailer I bring if we get it done, but we are working on a customer's Jeep in there. We've had it for a year. Wasn't supposed to take this long, but we've added a lot of stuff to it. It's an old CJ build, and we've had deadline after deadline, and a lot of times we've just added to those deadlines because of added stuff that we're looking to do or they're looking to do. But we're getting down to our final few things. We just got to tidy up some things and then dress it up, I should say. I don't think we're going to be able to find a painter like we were hoping, but I am really pushing Jim and everybody on our team to finish that project so that I can bring it out on this trip. I would like nothing more to be done with it for the customer and for us too. It's just one of those things, you get to so long in projects and start thinking you'll never see the end of it, especially when they get so custom. Like this one's very custom, so I'm not going to go into all that, but there's a couple videos on that project that we're doing. But real quick, I'm going to show you why this drive shaft stuff is important to measure for us specifically, but definitely for aftermarket companies too. I think they'd appreciate what I'm saying. Maybe, hopefully not get offended by the part of it, just, you know, putting it through. Not everybody does that. There's some that won't even do it. And I appreciate those guys being, you know, hard asses and really wanting a good measurement. But if you take a look, okay, there's only a couple of drive shafts here, right? But there's a lot of drive shafts in this yard. These are ones we've sorted. There's some over here. These are a lot of the CJ ones. We have a lot of the TJ, some of the JK. We have cores. If you're building a drive shaft, if a local drive shaft company is building it, they don't have, most of them are gonna have good stock, but every once in a while you get a funny one and you need a core. There's cores out here that are done. We don't, you know, we don't have the ability to do what the drive shaft companies do. We don't have the machines for them. They just need a good core. You can call us, pay the shipping, a little bit of money on a core. They're very cheap. The cores are, and even the good one, and we'll try to get you the one you want. But just know that, especially in those custom applications, oftentimes, specifically in those SYE kits that I mentioned in the beginning, those almost always have to be built. And an SYE one is going to look something a little more like that one. That's actually probably a CJ there. I don't know if I have a, yeah, here's an SYE one. That's your H yoke here. And you'll see that on old CJs too. And again, that's just that extra cardan, double cardan drive shaft, whatever they call these things. I always call them H yokes. It's just to help minimize vibration, especially when you got a really steep angle or a really short drive shaft. And I can't remember on yours, Richard, if that's the case. I can't remember if this is a 7 or 5. But if you got a CJ5 and you've lifted it up, just keep in mind, CJ5s are so short. If you've lifted it up, you got some big V8 sitting under the hood, you've had to shove things way back, especially if you're running an automatic. Really, the rule of thumb is you don't want to get below 11 inches. I mean, I've seen some real short drive shafts, but you really don't want to get too far below that. It just, I'm not going to explain why, as I don't know everything about these as far as that goes, but I'll tell you, drive shaft companies will laugh you out of the room when you call them and ask them to make a rear drive shaft for 11 inches. I mean, it's something like a go-kart maybe, but I haven't ever, I mean, they'll make it, I'm sure they will, but it's just, you know, you start seeing real short ones, and there's not too many short. These all expand out a little bit, but some of these are pretty short already. So, all right, so that's all it is. That's all. That's the only reason I'm just dotting our I's, crossing our T's. I want to make sure that we don't have to send you guys, you know, 5 different drive shafts next week, and getting them back and the shipping, and that can get expensive. So it's just better to really be sure exactly what we're doing, and make sure that we don't screw up your ride too. We don't want to do that either. So, all right, 303-666-9020, partsbreakers.com. That simple 5-minute video turned into 20 minutes of your life. So I appreciate you hanging out with me today. I posted another video today and another one yesterday of just an update of the yard and some cool inventory we got in. So 'tis the season, guys. We're right around the corner from where we'll be rocking and rolling. Our busy season starts officially January 1st, but sometimes it can kick off in October, and that's kind of what we're seeing right now. So hopefully that holds out, but otherwise we'll see you in January. I'll bring our full staff back on then, and then all the way up till June, and then we'll do it again, rinse and repeat. So have a great day.